Have you ever spoken in a room and felt like no one heard you, like your words were floating, but never landing? You explain, you clarify, you try to sound smart, and still they interrupt. They talk over you, they nod, but they don't really listen, and it starts to feel personal, like your voice has no weight, like your words don't carry respect. It's not just frustrating, it's humiliating. But here's the truth, no one tells you. It's not always what you say that commands power. It's how you say it. And more than that, it's what you don't say. Your voice is not just sound, it's signal. It tells the room if you're centered or if you're leaking energy. The calm ones, the still ones, they don't speak to impress. They speak to shape the room, and they know this. Every word either builds power or gives it away. That's what we're breaking down today. Not just what smart people say, but what they never say because they've outgrown the need to. And one of the first signs that someone hasn't mastered that control is this next behavior. Have you ever met someone who just couldn't stop telling you how smart they are? Every conversation becomes a resume. Every sentence, a subtle flex. They quote books you haven't read, drop terms you didn't ask for, and tell stories where they're always the smartest person in the room. At first, it might sound impressive, but the more they talk, the less you respect them, because it doesn't feel like wisdom. It feels like insecurity, dressed up as intellect. See, true intelligence doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need to prove itself. It shows up in silence, in solutions, and in how you treat people who know less than you. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a guy named John. In every meeting, John had to remind everyone that he was the expert. He talked about the books he read, the conferences he attended, the big names he worked with. And at first, people were intrigued. But over time, they stopped listening because it never felt like he was trying to help. It felt like he was trying to impress. One day, someone finally said it to his face. "John, we don't doubt your intelligence. We just wish you didn't make us feel small every time you speak." That hit him, and it should hit all of us. Because when you brag, you don't inspire, you distance. Stoic philosophy reminds us, nature does not boast about what it creates, and neither should we. Marcus Aurelius, real intelligence doesn't dominate the conversation, it elevates it. It leaves room for others to contribute, to grow, to feel safe enough to think aloud. And here's the part most people miss. If you're truly brilliant, it will show. You don't need to say it. People will feel it. So instead of chasing validation with words, practice humility, not the kind where you pretend to be less, but the kind where you let your work speak, and your silence command more respect than any self-promotion ever could. Because in the end, people won't remember how much you knew. They'll remember how you made them feel when they didn't. But arrogance doesn't always show through boasting. Sometimes it shows up when we silence others. We often think the smartest people in the room are the ones talking the most. But real intelligence doesn't rush to be heard. It listens, observes, assesses, not because it lacks answers, but because it doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room to hold the most weight. The truly intelligent pause, not to hesitate, but to sharpen their strike. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I was leading a project I believed in. Tight deadline, big stakes. During a team meeting, one of my junior colleagues suggested an idea, something unconventional. A little messy, but creative. I barely let him finish. Cut him off mid-sentence. Dismissed it without thinking twice. I thought I was being decisive, but the room went quiet. The conversation flatlined. And after the meeting, A teammate pulled me aside and said, "You might be right, but no one's going to speak up again if you keep shutting people down like that." They were right. I wasn't leading. I was dominating. And domination doesn't grow minds, it silences them. That was the day I realized being right isn't enough. Being wise means knowing when to speak, how to listen, and why every voice at the table matters. Stoic philosophy teaches this well. You cannot learn what you think you already know. Marcus Aurelius. When you shut others down, even unintentionally, you don't just kill the moment, you damage the relationship. You train people to stay quiet. You signal that only your thoughts matter, and that's not intelligence. That's ego in disguise. Instead, ask questions. Seek angles. Even when someone offers something flawed, look for the one insight you can refine. Not because you agree, but because you respect the process of thinking. Because the smartest person in the room isn't the one with all the answers. It's the one who creates space for new ones to emerge. And when they do speak, they choose carefully what not to say, especially when emotions run high. We all complain. It's human. But there's a difference between venting to process and venting to surrender. Most people don't know when they've crossed that line. You hear it all the time. My job is exhausting. My manager doesn't listen. This system is broken. Over and over and over again. But the problem isn't that they're frustrated. It's that they've made frustration their identity. No plan, no change, no action. That's not venting. That's resigning. It's a subtle public declaration. I've given up, and I want you to hear it. And that's not strength. That's submission. The Stoics put it simply, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. The more time you spend speaking about what you can't change, the less time you have to actually change what you can. And here's the hidden cost. Your voice, the thing that should carry insight, conviction, leadership, starts to carry heaviness. You become the sound of problems, not solutions. People stop leaning in, not because they don't care, but because your presence starts draining the room. Let me give you a name. Peter, smart guy, talented, but every time you saw him, it was another complaint. At first, people empathized, but eventually, they avoided him. Not because they lacked compassion, but because he had mastered helplessness. Until one day, someone finally said, "I get it, but what are you doing to change it?" That question stopped him cold, and it should stop us too, because complaining without action doesn't heal. It hardens. It turns a moment of truth into a habit of defeat. And the longer you stay in that habit, the more powerless you feel. And eventually, the more powerless you become. So here's the move. Every time you want to complain, pause and ask, is this venting to understand or venting to give up? Can I do something about this? If the answer is yes, act. If it's no, release it. Don't rehearse it. Don't repeat it. Just let it go. Because energy is finite. And the more you spend it reinforcing what's broken, the less you have for building what's better. Smart people don't just express, they evaluate. And then they move. Some people talk too much about what they're going to do, what they'll build, who they'll become, what's coming soon. But if you've been around long enough, you know this. The louder the promise, the less likely it gets delivered. Smart people don't throw their commitments into the wind. They don't speak to impress. They speak to inform, and then they execute. Because power isn't just in bold words. It's in follow-through. It's in the alignment between what you say and what you actually do. You say you'll show up. You show up. You say you'll handle it. You handle it. If you're not sure, you don't promise. Simple. See, overpromising feels good in the moment. You want to sound reliable. You want to be liked. You want people to trust you. But when your actions fall short, you lose all of it. Let me tell you about Greg. Great guy, successful, big heart. But Greg said yes to everything. I'll be there. I got it. I'll send that tonight. And it rarely happened. At first, people gave him the benefit of the doubt. He's busy. He's trying. He means well. But eventually, Greg said it, started to mean nothing. And no one wants to be that guy. The one people don't trust. Not because he's dishonest, but because he's undisciplined. The Stoics taught this centuries ago. Let your words be few and your actions strong. Mean what you say. Say what you can live up to. Here's what powerful people understand. A soft no is better than a broken yes. Under-promising and over-delivering builds your reputation faster than big talk ever could. Silence is better than a promise you might not keep. So pause before you speak. Check yourself. Ask, can I deliver this? Am I willing to back this up no matter what? If yes, say it. If not, don't. Because real leaders, real men, real Stoics, don't build their identity on intention. They build it on execution. But strength isn't just measured in how we speak about the future. It's revealed in how we handle the past, especially our failures. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone owns them. Some deny, some deflect, some point fingers and hope the spotlight moves on. But here's the truth. The weak hide their mistakes to protect their image. The strong own them to protect their integrity. Owning a mistake doesn't make you look weak. It makes you real. It makes you accountable. And in a world full of blame and excuses, accountability stands out like a lighthouse in fog. Let me take you back to a moment I won't forget. I was managing a project-tight timeline, high pressure. In my rush to deliver, I skipped a step. Something small, at least. I thought so. But that oversight created a chain reaction. We missed a key detail. The result? Client backlash, team frustration, damage to our credibility. I could have blamed the deadline. I could have blamed the team. I could have said, it slipped through the cracks. But I didn't. I walked into that meeting, looked everyone in the eye, and said, that was my miss. Here's how it happened, and here's how I'll fix it. The room didn't go silent out of shock. It went silent out of respect. Because here's what people won't say to your face, but they'll always feel. They don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to be honest. And when you are, they trust you more, not less. The Stoics understood this deeply. If someone can show me my mistake, I will gladly change, for it is the truth I seek. Marcus Aurelius. Admitting you're wrong isn't surrender. It's strategy. Because until you own the problem, you can't fix it. And worse, the mistake owns you. It shapes how people talk about you when you're not in the room. It creates doubt, not because the mistake happened, but because you pretended it didn't. So next time you slip, don't hide it. Own it, correct it, and keep moving forward, cleaner, clearer, more respected. Because the man who owns his failure is the only one qualified to lead others through theirs. And while most people rush to talk about what they'll do next, the truly smart ones move in silence. You ever notice how the loudest plans often disappear first? The big announcement fades. The huge goal gets delayed. The "this year is my year" posts get deleted quietly in March. Because when you overshare the future, you don't just inform people, You feed their expectations. You create pressure to perform. You invite unnecessary opinions. You set yourself up to be watched instead of focused. And more importantly, you drain the energy you need to build. There's something sacred about building in silence. Not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting the process. The Stoics understood this. They didn't need applause to keep moving. They didn't need external hype to validate internal work. They moved in the shadows until the work spoke for itself. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. You don't owe the world a roadmap. You don't need to narrate every step. And you don't need to prove you're doing something, just to be taken seriously. Let your progress speak when it's real. Until then, let your silence speak for you. Because when you protect your vision, you give it space to mature, to evolve, to breathe without the weight of judgment. And when you finally reveal it, it's not a pitch, it's proof. So here's the move. Talk less, do more. Let results explain. No need for a countdown. No need for validation. No need to post your goals, just to feel momentum. Because that momentum, it's fake. It's reaction dopamine. It fades fast and takes your discipline with it. The best builders are busy building. The best leaders are busy listening. The best moves are made in silence. And when they land, they don't need introduction. They make impact. Because in the end, wisdom isn't loud. It's precise, controlled, intentional. In the end, it's not about saying more. It's about saying what matters and meaning every word. Because words without presence are just noise, but words with stillness behind them, that's power. You don't need to speak often. You don't need to speak first. You don't even need to speak loudly. You just need to speak from a place that's built, not borrowed, from control, from clarity, from conviction. That's what separates the intelligent from the impressive, the strategic from the reactive, the stoic from the scattered. Every time you speak, you're making a choice. Am I adding noise or am I delivering impact? And here's the truth. The ones who carry weight in silence always carry more weight when they speak. Their words hit harder because their energy didn't leak before they opened their mouth. Their sentences are simple because their mind is clear and their tone is calm because their identity isn't at risk. That's your challenge moving forward. Speak less, mean more, say only what's essential, and let silence do what noise never could. Command respect, because when you stop talking to be heard and start speaking only when it counts, you become unshakable. If this landed, drop a comment below that says, "Silent power." Let the world keep guessing. You just keep building.